Jason Ball, welcome to Bent TV.
Thanks for having me.
How did the idea of Pride Cup come into being?
I think one of the best things about the Pride Cup is that it actually wasn't my idea. It came from the coach, it came from the club here at Yarra Glen. I think they felt a sense of ownership over me and my story and wanted to do something to be supportive of the advocacy that I've been doing in that space. So, I had a conversation where my coach said that they wanted to do a Pride Cup and, would that be something that I'd be interested in being involved in? And of course it was. Would it be something I'd be interested in helping organise? That was a bit more, but, I came around and I thought it was a really great opportunity, and I guess I felt a lot of pride that Yarra Glen were willing to do that. I think my hopes and expectations were definitely exceeded. I couldn't have imagined it had gone as well as it did. The feeling arriving at the ground and seeing the 50-metre line painted as a rainbow was just amazing. I grew up playing junior football here, as a kid, and it was a place where, I was always hiding my sexuality. And so to come here on the day of the Pride Cup and see the gay pride flag, the international symbol of gay pride there on the football ground, that was just unprecedented and a real milestone. But beyond that, the fact that we had the AFL get involved and support the event by holding a pre-match function, which brought together leaders from various sporting, human rights and mental health and LGBT organisations to have conversations about homophobia in sport and making sport a more inclusive and welcoming place. That was really great as well. And, it wasn't just the AFL there. We had a presence from Netball Australia and from the Victorian Equal Opportunities and Human Rights Commission. So I think it was just, a fantastic example of the two very different communities coming together.
How would you like to see the Pride Cup evolve?
Well, I think on the day we saw Mark Evans, who's the General Manager of Football Operations at the AFL, say that the AFL would be prepared to support a Pride Cup at a national level. So I think that is the next step. I think that it's one thing for, Yarra Glen to do something like that, but the reach that the AFL has is huge. And sport has traditionally been a place that is so, unwelcoming to the gay and lesbian community, whether it's through the homophobic language used by people in that environment or people who are gay who are playing who feel like they have to stay in the closet in that environment, or they stop playing at one point or another because they can't handle that level of homophobia. I think initiatives like the Pride Cup, where you're actually celebrating diversity and welcoming and being inclusive of people who are LGBTI, is the next step, and to have that at a national level, I think, is going to be huge.
What changes would you like to see before the next Pride?
I think, I'm really hopeful that the Pride Cup will be an annual event that Yarra Glen can really take ownership of. I'd like to see perhaps more teams in our local league get involved in that initiative, and perhaps even other sporting codes, whether it's basketball or soccer or rugby, take the example of the Pride Cup and apply it in their own sporting codes. In terms of why, we don't see professional sports people coming out while they're playing, I would hope that we can see that in the future. I think a lot of the reason why we don't is because it hasn't really been done to a great extent, and there's a lot of risk and unknown territory there. I think if anything, my story has been able to show at a much smaller scale, at a grassroots level, that it can be done, and contrary to all of the fears that I had about how I would be received, I was welcomed with a lot of support. And I think that, what I would say to people in that situation is just to not be afraid, and that you would be surprised how supportive people will be if you give them the chance. I think, the AFL have come a long way in the last few years on the issue of homophobia. I was very pleased to be able to lend my story as a case study that they used as part of education and training for their own players around vilification and discrimination, and the fact that they've included sexuality alongside race, religion and gender in their policies and procedures is a really good step. I think that also around International Day Against Homophobia, we saw the AFL Players Association and a number of AFL players add their voice to that cause, and that was pretty significant. I think, straight allies are really the key to success in this area, and to empower them, I think, is what we need to be putting a lot of our focus into.